10 years disappeared before this finally made sense, and the truth is uncomfortable because it is simple and easy to ignore, yet it controls more of your life than almost anything else you do, and once you see it clearly, you cannot go back to living the same way again. Because the first few minutes after you wake up are not just a start to your day, they are a command to your brain. They quietly decide your focus, your emotions, your decisions, and even your level of discipline for the next 16 hours. And most people lose this moment without even realizing it. They wake up and instantly give their attention away. They open their phone, they react, they scroll, they absorb noise, and in that small window their mind gets programmed by randomness instead of intention. And that is where everything starts going wrong. Because your brain in the morning is in a highly sensitive state. Science shows that your brain waves are slower right after waking up, closer to a state where suggestions sink deeper and habits form faster, which means whatever you feed your mind in that window becomes stronger, sticks longer, and shapes your behavior without effort. And yet this is the exact moment people waste the most, not because they are lazy, but because they are unaware of how powerful it is. And that lack of awareness costs years. It cost me 10 years of repeating the same patterns, overthinking the same problems, feeling stuck in the same cycles, thinking I needed more motivation, more discipline, more clarity, when in reality I needed control over something much smaller, something I was ignoring every single day. And once that shifted, everything else started to follow. Not instantly, but consistently, and that is what makes this different from motivation. This is not about hype. This is not about forcing yourself to feel inspired. This is about understanding how your mind actually works and using it in your favor, because your mind is not random. It follows patterns. It responds to repetition. It gets shaped by what it sees and hears first. And if you don't take control of that, something else will. And most of the time that something is chaos, distraction, and other people's priorities. And that is why some people stay calm while others feel overwhelmed before the day even begins. The difference is not talent, it is not luck, it is not even intelligence, it is how they start their morning. And that is the part nobody talks about deeply enough, because it sounds too simple to matter. But simple does not mean weak. Simple means repeatable. And repeatable is what creates real change. And in this video you are going to learn 10 life lessons that took years of trial and error to understand. Lessons that are not based on theory but on experience, on mistakes, on observing what works and what quietly destroys your focus. And each lesson is connected to one powerful idea, that your morning is the foundation of your mindset. And when you change that foundation, everything built on top of it starts to change as well. You will learn how your first thought in the morning sets the tone for your decisions, why touching your phone too early weakens your mental clarity, how small actions in the first 10 minutes create momentum for the entire day, why repetition in the morning shapes your beliefs faster than at any other time, how silence can become your strongest advantage in a world full of noise, and why controlling your attention early gives you an edge that most people never develop. And these are not complicated systems, they are small shifts, but they work because they align with how your brain naturally functions. And as this video goes deeper, you will start noticing patterns in your own life. Things you used to ignore will begin to make sense, and that is where the real change begins, not when you try harder, but when you see clearer. And if you stay until the end, you will understand the one simple morning secret that ties all of these lessons together, a shift that can rewire how you think without needing extreme effort, something most people overlook because it feels too basic, yet it has the power to change your focus, your discipline, and your sense of control in a very real way. And once you understand it, you will start seeing your mornings differently, not as something to get through, but as something to use, because the way you begin your day is quietly shaping the direction of your life, whether you notice it or not. And that is exactly why this matters, not just for today, but for every day that follows. So if you are ready to stop repeating the same patterns and start taking control of your mind in a smarter way, Stay with this video until the end, because each lesson builds on the next, and missing one means missing the full picture. And now welcome to the channel, a place focused on discipline, clarity, and real mental strength. Not empty motivation, but practical mastery. Subscribe and become part of a mindset that actually moves forward. Because change does not start with a big decision. It starts with a small shift done consistently, and this is where it begins. The alarm goes off, and the day begins before you even think about it. Your hand moves without awareness. You reach for your phone. Your eyes are still heavy, but your mind is already being pulled in 10 different directions. Notifications, messages, updates, noise, and in a few seconds your attention is no longer yours. It belongs to everything around you. You scroll without purpose, you react without thinking, and slowly your mind shifts into a state of urgency, comparison, and distraction. And before you even get out of bed, your focus is broken, your clarity is gone, and your energy is scattered. Then the rush begins. You feel behind, you feel pressured, you feel like you are already late in a race you never planned to run. And the strange part is this feels normal. It feels like this is just how life works, but it is not. It is a pattern, and patterns can be changed, because what looks like a normal morning is actually a chain reaction that shapes everything that follows. The stress you feel later, the lack of focus, the impulsive decisions, the overthinking, it all connects back to how you started your day. And once you see that clearly, something shifts, because now there is another possibility, a different way to begin, a way where your morning does not control you but you control your morning, a way where instead of reacting, you decide, instead of rushing, you slow down just enough to take control. And that is where the real change begins, because your morning is not just a routine, it is a reset point for your mind, and if used correctly, it can rewire how you think, how you feel, and how you act for the rest of the day. And this is not about motivation. This is not about forcing yourself to feel inspired. This is deeper than that. These are lessons learned through time, through mistakes that repeated until they became impossible to ignore, through stress that kept coming back until the pattern was understood, through overthinking that drained energy until the root cause became clear. 10 years of trying, failing, adjusting, and slowly understanding what actually works and what does not. And all of that has been simplified into something you can apply starting tomorrow. Not complicated systems, not extreme routines, but simple shifts that align with how your brain naturally works. And that is what makes them powerful, because when something works with your mind instead of against it, it becomes easier to repeat, and repetition is what creates lasting change. So here are the 10 lessons, each one small on its own but powerful when combined, each one designed to shift how your brain responds to the start of the day, and you do not need to apply all of them at once. You start with one, just one, and you repeat it until it becomes natural, and that is when your life begins to move in a different direction, slowly at first, then more clearly. And the first lesson begins at the exact moment you wake up, before you touch anything, before you react to anything. There is a single thought that appears in your mind, and most people never notice it, but that thought sets the tone for everything that follows. For many people it is stress, it is worry, it is a list of problems waiting to be solved, and that instantly puts the brain into a defensive state, a reactive state, where everything feels heavier than it actually is. And once that state is activated, it continues throughout the day, shaping decisions, lowering focus, increasing frustration. But this can be changed, because that first thought is not fixed. It can be replaced. It can be directed, and when you choose a thought intentionally, something simple, something calm, something focused, your brain responds differently. It shifts into a state of control instead of reaction, and that small shift changes how you approach everything that comes next. And this leads directly into the second lesson, which is one of the hardest to follow, but one of the most important. Do not touch your phone, not immediately, not in the first few minutes, because the moment you do, you are allowing external noise to enter your mind before your own thoughts have even settled. And once that happens, your clarity is gone, your attention is divided, and your brain starts reacting instead of creating. And protecting your mind in those early minutes is not about discipline alone. It is about understanding how easily your focus can be influenced, because once it is pulled in different directions, it becomes harder to bring it back. And when you delay that first interaction with your phone, even for a short time, you create space for your own thoughts to form, for your own direction to take shape. And that is where clarity begins. And then comes the third lesson, which is about winning the first 10 minutes of your day. Not in a big dramatic way, but in small, controlled actions, simple movements, simple decisions, things that seem too small to matter but carry more weight than they appear, because the brain builds momentum through action, not through thinking. And when you complete a small task early, something as simple as getting out of bed without delay, organizing your space, or starting your day with intention, your brain registers that as progress, and that progress builds confidence, and that confidence carries forward, making the next action easier, and the next one even easier. And this is how discipline actually forms, not through force, but through repeated small wins that create a pattern of action, and that pattern becomes your default behavior over time. And this connects directly to the fourth lesson, which is about repetition, because your mind does not judge what is true or false, it accepts what is repeated, and whatever you expose your mind to consistently becomes your internal reality, your beliefs, your expectations, your level of confidence, all shaped by what you see and think repeatedly. And the morning is the most powerful time for this, because your brain is more receptive, more open to suggestion, and that means what you repeat in that window sinks deeper, whether it is positive or negative, intentional or random. And this is why controlling what enters your mind in the morning is not optional if you want to change how you think, because your brain is always learning, always adapting, and if you do not guide it, it will still change, just not in the direction you want. And that is why the fifth lesson matters: silence, something that feels uncomfortable to many people because it removes distraction, it removes noise, it removes the constant input that keeps the mind busy. But in that silence, something important happens. Your thoughts become clearer, your awareness increases, and you start to notice patterns you normally ignore. And this clarity is not something you can force. It comes naturally when the noise is removed. And that is why even a few minutes of silence in the morning can change how you see your day, because instead of being pulled in different directions, your mind settles into one, and from that point, your actions become more intentional, more focused, and less reactive. And then comes the sixth lesson, which shifts from the mind to the body, because your body and your mind are not separate. They influence each other constantly, and the state of your body directly affects the state of your mind. If your body is slow, your mind feels slow. If your body is active, your mind becomes sharper, more alert. And this is why movement early in the morning is so powerful, not because it burns calories or builds strength, but because it changes your mental state. It increases energy, it improves focus, it signals to your brain that the day has started, and that signal matters more than most people realize, because without it, your mind stays in a low energy state, making everything feel harder than it needs to be. And when you activate your body first, your thinking improves naturally, without effort. And this leads into the seventh lesson, which is about stopping negative loops before they grow. Because thoughts in the morning are stronger, they carry more influence, and if a negative thought appears and is not addressed, it can expand quickly, turning into worry, turning into doubt, turning into a chain of overthinking that follows you throughout the day. And the key is not to eliminate these thoughts completely, because that is not realistic. The key is to notice them early and stop them before they take control, to interrupt the pattern before it becomes a loop. And this is a skill that improves with awareness, because once you recognize the beginning of a negative pattern, you gain the ability to redirect it, and that small moment of control prevents hours of unnecessary stress. And then comes the eighth lesson, which simplifies everything even further. Focus on one thing, not 5, not 10, just one clear direction for the morning, because the mind performs better with clarity than with chaos. And when you try to think about too many things at once, your attention splits, your energy spreads thin, and your progress slows down. But when you choose one priority, one clear goal, your brain aligns with it, your actions become more direct, and your results become more consistent. And this does not mean ignoring everything else. It means giving your mind a clear starting point, something to anchor your focus before the rest of the day unfolds. And this connects to the ninth lesson, which challenges a common belief that you need motivation to start because motivation is unreliable. It changes, it fades, it depends on mood and energy, and if you rely on it, your actions become inconsistent, but systems remove that uncertainty, and a simple morning routine acts as a system, something you follow regardless of how you feel, and when you repeat it enough, it becomes automatic. It removes the need to decide, it removes excuses, and it keeps you moving forward even on days when motivation is low. And this is what creates real discipline, not forcing yourself in moments of energy, but continuing in moments of resistance. And finally, the 10th lesson brings everything together by focusing on protection, protecting your peace, your attention, your mental space, because not everything deserves your focus, not every thought needs your energy, and not every distraction needs a response. And when you learn to filter what you allow into your mind, especially in the morning, you create a sense of calm that stays with you throughout the day. And that calm is not weakness, it is control. It is the ability to remain steady while everything around you moves. And this is what builds a strong mind over time. And all of these lessons lead to one simple but powerful shift. Your mind is most programmable in the morning, more open, more responsive, more influenced by what you do and think. And that means whatever you feed it during that time becomes your reality, not immediately but gradually, through repetition, through consistency, through small actions that build over time. And the formula is simple: no phone at the start, a clear thought to guide your mind, and an intentional beginning that sets your direction. And when you apply this consistently, your mornings stop being random, they become controlled. And when your mornings are controlled, your days begin to change in ways that feel natural, not forced. And that is where real transformation starts, quietly, steadily, and powerfully, without needing anything extreme, just a better way to begin. 10 years went by before this finally became clear. Not because the answers were hidden, but because the small things were ignored again and again. And that is where most people get stuck. They look for big changes, big breakthroughs, big moments, while the real shift is happening in the quiet details they overlook every single day. Because small things feel harmless. They feel easy to skip, easy to delay, easy to forget. But over time they build patterns, and those patterns build your life. And that is why nothing changes until the small things change first, especially the way you start your morning. Because your morning is not just a routine you go through without thinking. It is a direction you set without realizing. It is the moment where your mind decides whether it will be calm or chaotic, focused or distracted, in control or reactive. And once that direction is set, everything else follows it. Your decisions, your energy, your ability to stay disciplined, all of it traces back to how you began. And the truth is simple. When you take control of your morning, you take control of your mind. And when you take control of your mind, your life starts to move in a completely different way, not instantly, but consistently. And that consistency is what creates real results over time. So if this changed how you see your mornings, if it made you realize that the power was always in the small choices you make at the start of your day, then take the next step and stay connected to this mindset. Subscribe to the channel and become part of a space focused on discipline, clarity, and real mental strength, not surface-level motivation that fades in a day, but mastery that builds over time. Like the video so this message reaches more people who are stuck in the same cycle, and share it with someone who needs to take back control of their mind, because sometimes one simple shift is all it takes to change the direction of an entire life. And this could be that moment for you.